Serious Dave here. Today I'm going to discuss what I call the myth of the assault rifle. I've been reading about, studying, analyzing military rifles and cartridges for over 40 years, and I've come to the conclusion that there is no such thing as an assault rifle. Military rifles that have been for years described as assault rifles should simply be described as carbines, specifically short-range carbines. So let's discuss definitions. A carbine, as defined by W.H.B. Smith and Joseph E. Smith in the Book of Rifles from 1948, is a short rifle, usually with a barrel length of less than 22 inches. While I've not ever seen any specific definition of a short rifle, by examining the specifications of military rifles going back for more than a century, I believe that a reasonable definition is a rifle that is approximately 40 inches in length or less. John Walter, author of Rifles of the World, also defines a carbine as a short firearm with a barrel measuring less than 22 inches, usually but not invariably lacking a bayonet. A so-called full-power battle rifle can, therefore, also be a carbine if it is a short rifle with a barrel length of 22 inches or less. For example, the FAL type rifle in the foreground is 38 inches long with a 16¼ inch barrel, which, even though it is chambering the 7.62 NATO round, qualifies it as a carbine. For years, most people have divided military rifles into two main categories: battle rifles and assault rifles. A battle rifle is usually described as a military rifle chambering a so-called full-power cartridge such as 7.62 NATO. While so-called assault rifles chamber what is called intermediate cartridges, such as 7.92 by 33, 7.62 by 39, 5.56 by 45, and 5.45 by 39. Some arguments exist as to whether some cartridges, such as the 6.5mm Japanese, Italian, and Swedish rounds, are full-power or intermediate cartridges. While the muzzle velocities of these 6.5mm rounds are similar to the aforementioned intermediate cartridges, such as the 7.62 by 39mm, the muzzle energy of these 6.5mm rounds are closer to full-power cartridges. Because of this muzzle energy data, I consider these 6.5mm cartridges and cartridges with similar muzzle energy numbers to be full-power rounds, not intermediate rounds. The definition of a so-called assault rifle was best defined, I believe, by firearms expert Chuck Taylor in 1983. The weapon must be a carbine, it must chamber an intermediate cartridge, it must be fed by a box magazine, and it must have a selective fire capability. Of course, not everyone would agree on this definition, including the militaries of countries such as Austria and Switzerland. Austrians designated their version of the 7.62 NATO FNFAL as a Sturmgewehr 58, and the Swiss Army used the designation Sturmgewehr 57 for their rifle chambered in 7.5 by 55mm. The origin of the term assault rifle, of course, originated with an order from Adolf Hitler in October 1944, ordering that the MP-44 be redesignated Sturmgewehr 44. Because the term MP, Maschinenpistole, did not, according to the order, describe the potential of the weapon. Ironically, the STG-44 assault rifle was used more for covering retreating German troops than for offensive assaults on enemy positions. Actually, the early designation of Maschinenkarabiner, or machine carbine, was more accurate in describing these select-fire carbines than Sturmgewehr, and the completely misleading MP designation was simply used to continue the development of these rifles in spite of directives to the contrary. By the late 1970s and early 1980s, the firearms magazines began referring to any semi-automatic military look-alike rifle as an assault rifle. The manufacturers and importers of these weapons jumped on the bandwagon and also began referring to their semi-auto rifles as assault weapons for marketing purposes. Unfortunately, anti-gun politicians and organizations also picked up on this erroneous terminology for propaganda purposes, as the majority of the firearms ignorant public were frightened by the term assault rifle. In their minds, an assault rifle was made for criminal assaults on the public rather than military uses in combat. Thus, the firearms press and manufacturers and importers contributed to the 1989 Bush ban, the 94 federal assault weapons ban, and various state bans of semi-auto military look-alike rifles. For example, here's a magazine from 1982, and here is a typical ad of the period describing semi-auto rifles as assault rifles. The crux of my argument is that so-called assault rifles do nothing that a so-called select-fire full-power battle rifle can't do. The misconception that has been propagated over the years is that these full-power battle rifles are totally uncontrollable during fully automatic fire. One can view videos of an FNFAL from the 1950s being fired with complete, controlled, continuous full auto firing of an entire 20-round magazine. Period U.S. Army videos show the same with an M14, and there are many recent videos showing shooters performing these same feats with a variety of full-power military-type select-fire rifles. The weapons are not jumping out of their hands, and the barrels are not rising to the sky. These shooters are not supermen, they are simply using proper technique combined with training and practice. Ironically, even the world's first assault rifle, used on a mass scale, the MP-43, was never intended to be used for sustained fully automatic fire in combat. In a directive from the Supreme Command of the Army dated 1944, it states, "The value of the weapon is in the high rate of fire and accuracy in individual fire, 22 to 28 rounds per minute, as well as the possibility of increasing fire to fire bursts of 2 to 3 rounds, which is 40 to 50 rounds per minute." In conclusion, I believe the term assault rifle is a propaganda term rather than a practical and accurate term for what is simply a selective fire, short-range carbine type of rifle. Serious Dave, out.